And that was a big thing that happened at that point for me, was going, okay, like, let's stop, let's pause and think about, if I'm blessed to be here in 10 years, like, what does that look like? Like, what excites me? If I'm watching my life in a movie and I'm like, oh, wow, look what we're doing now, and look what's happening, and look at how we're contributing, and whatever it is. And what is it that it actually excites me? And then going, all right, cool. What do we need to do now to make that a reality? And let me start making choices in my life that are aligned with that. And let me put boundaries in place that actually give me the time and space for the things that are important. Because Matt, another thing for me, like, I had become a workaholic, and about a year and a half after this point, I had a real, like, coming to Jesus moment, and I was miserable. August of 2007, so I guess a year and a half later, where I was like, what is, like, we crushed it, we broke the records, we did the things for my cousin, that was awesome. But then now I was just like, what was the next thing professionally I was chasing?
This week's guest is Cathy Christen. She is a serial entrepreneur. She's the author of a book called Life is a Masterpiece, and she's an executive coach with over 2 decades of experience helping individuals and business leaders really design lives that are filled with purpose, joy, and our big word of the day, intention. But more than her impressive accolades, her story is really about resilience and transformation after loss, and this intentional living and finding the most joy in life. She opens up about the pivotal moments in her life that really led her to redefine what success looks like. It's not just these external achievements, but she really wanted to align her life with what truly mattered. So, from navigating profound personal losses, including the sudden passing of her cousin and her sister, to finding a way to break free from societal expectations, and you know how much I love talking about that, Cathy shares how she intentionally crafted her life rooted in meaning and connection. I think by some of the examples that she shares about how she operates with her husband and in her family, you will be inspired, or you'll take some new ideas into your own life. We really explore the power of reflection and the importance of prioritizing joy. And then we talk a little bit about some actionable steps that you can design a life aligned with your vision. If you are ready to kind of change the life of autopilot that I sometimes talk about and sometimes feel like I'm doing, and if you want to embrace that intentional living and hopefully discover what truly lights you up, I think you'll enjoy this conversation with Cathy Christen. So, without further ado, here is my conversation with Cathy Christen.
I'm Matt Gilhooly, and this is The Life Shift, candid conversations about the pivotal moments that have changed lives forever.
Hello, my friends. Welcome to the Life Shift podcast. I am sitting here with Cathy. Hello, Cathy.
Hi, how are you, Matt?
So good. Thank you for joining me. We just had a little fun when Cathy joined this little remote studio here, and we were like, why is her audio not working? Turns out it was me. Yeah, my plug was not in, so I apologize for that.
No worries. Everyone who knows me knows I'm like the worst thing for technology. Like, anything I touch usually doesn't work, but I've been working really hard. So I was like, oh man.
Well, and the whole time I'm listening to you, I can hear you. You're telling me all this stuff. You're like, it's been a rough season. There's a lot of things that are happening. And I'm like, yeah, that must be your fault too. Meanwhile, it was me. So this is how we be vulnerable here on the Life Shift podcast.
Yeah, let's do it.
Well, thank you for being a part of the Life Shift podcast. This show, I never knew I needed this show. When I was 8, my mom was killed in a motorcycle accident, and my dad had to sit down and tell me that she had died. I was visiting him. My parents live thousands of miles apart. And when he told me, that was like this line in the sand moment in which everything that I had dreamed about my future, that my family had probably dreamed about my future, changed in that moment. And because it was like late 80s, early 90s, nobody was really talking about like how to help an 8-year-old through grief. So I spent about 20 years avoiding the full grief journey and like fighting that and failing at grief is what I say. And the whole time I'm like, I wonder if other people have these line in the sand moments, life shift moments. Turns out people have lots of them.
Yeah.
But, it was just like, I think growing up, if I had heard stories of maybe another guy in his 40s making it through life after something like that, maybe I would have felt a little less alone or something like that. So now I've just had the pleasure of talking to over 150 people on the life shift about these moments. And it's just been such a healing journey. So before we even start the conversation, thank you for being a part of my healing journey through this conversation.
I love this. And I love the focus on this, because when we first spoke and you're like, do you have a moment? I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, yes. I can think of very distinct moments, and some of loss and some of just change, or moments of just like, oh my gosh, I've had enough, where I had to really reevaluate, and I know that the stories of resilience through others and learning how others got through what they got through. I actually was just doing a coaching call with some of our clients, and we were talking about this very topic, and like, when have you overcome something that seemed so challenging at the time that you did not think you could even get through, but you overcame it, and what resources, what actions, what things helped you get through it. And we just had such a beautiful conversation. So just the flow of this conversation continues. I'm so grateful to be here and chat.
It's so beautiful when we as humans get to the point in our lives, some of us take a little longer to get there, but have the ability to reflect on these moments and think about the little things that we did, the big things that all the pieces of it, and not just dismiss it as part of life, but actually like really reflect on it and think about it. And what I hear from a lot of people is like, oh, well, coming on your show, it really forced me to think like to the moment. Was it a phone call? Was it an email? Like all these things. And I think that's like a beautiful thing that we can evolve to as humans, is to have the ability to reflect on it and learn from it.
Yeah, I love it. Well, thank you. I was thinking about this. I'm like, where do we start? And I was thinking about what was one of the most pivotal things that really shifted my mindset, like how I did life, like the decisions that I made. And I was like, what's the earliest that I could really think? I'm like, there's different things that have happened, but I really thought about when I was 23 still at the time. And this was a little bit before my quarter of a century crisis, but my best friend, who is my cousin, or was my cousin, still is, wherever he is up there. We grew up as twins. We were 2 months apart. We did everything together, everything we could. He lived in Puerto Rico. I lived in Miami. I had moved to Miami for school, and we kind of go back and forth. And I could think back, like all of my like major milestones, things that had happened in my life. He was always there, and he was taken unexpectedly. He had a brain aneurysm, and we were supposed to walk my dad's wedding a couple weeks later. And one day he's calling me to ask me a question about the wedding, and I was like, I'll call you later. I gotta go. And I was headed to the Bahamas for a trip with some of our salespeople, and then I got a call while I was in the Bahamas, and he was just gone. I was like, what? And I remember that year in 2006, it was such a tough year, like going through that year, turning 24 without him, and really thinking about, like, I was like a zombie, I think, for at least like 6 to 8 months. Like, I didn't know what to do. I mean, he was my best friend. He was my angel. The old school cartoons where you have like the little angel and the little devil on the shoulders. It's like, in our world, he was the little angel. I was the little devil, he was my balance. And I felt so lost. And it really, for me, it was like he was my angel on earth, and he was just gone. And I remember during that year, just thinking all sorts of things. A big one was like, wow, like if I'm gone tomorrow, like what mattered?
Right.
Like,
what do I leave behind?
Yeah. And what's important? I was in my youth, I was chasing success, money, all the things. Right. And I was working my tush off. I was building, and then this happens. And I remember thinking like, wow, like I felt so paralyzed. The only thing that got me through that year was the fact that he set out to help me break an all-time record that year. And during Christmas break, had come over prior to that. He passed in February, and he had come over during Christmas break and helped me advertise and put out cars, do all these things. And, he was like, I want to help you have your first $1 million year. And, he was so invested. And part of me, and I remember, my father and others be like, he helped you. He was so excited about seeing you do this year, and he's still watching. And I was like, okay. And it kept me going, but it was tough, and really that's where for me, the introspection, intentional introspection began in my life, where I was like, okay, I got to go in and see what's happening and what's actually important, and not live life just going through motions. And we can go wherever you want, but that was like the first thing that made me go, whoa, like I need to really look inward and really make some decisions before I keep taking steps and keep going on a hamster wheel.
Was he the first person that you lost that you were close to?
When I was 12, my great grandmother, who was like my mom, she raised me since I was little. She was my world. When I lost her, that was a really tough time. But I think her being older, it was more normal, even though it was really tough. And so then the next for me was my cousin. Unfortunately, 7 years after that, I lost my sister to a car accident unexpectedly. And so, yeah.
Well, I can also imagine with being seemingly twins and kind of living this life together, this sudden stop of like, oh crap, this could happen to any of us. This could happen to me. And something that you said really resonated with me, and something that I internalized. And I think it probably society with my trauma itself is I got on this like checklist of society. Like I was supposed to graduate, and then I was supposed to go to college, and then I was supposed to get a good job, and then I was supposed to get promoted. I just felt like I was doing things because someone put out a list and I was...
You're supposed to do it, right?
Right. I didn't, and because I had that loss early on, I didn't have these feelings that you probably got stopped in your tracks and were like, am I doing this for the right reasons? Am I doing this for him? Am I doing this to make other people happy? Is that kind of what was swirling around in your head of like...
Yeah, I felt like I was missing out on so much, like I started my business at 21, well, 19, but really once I graduated, like I've had my business for 23 years now. And in my early years, I was working my butt off. I was trying to break all the records.
Was that the goal for you when you started? Like you just wanted to be successful and that's the route you thought? Or was it you were super passionate about what you were doing, or both?
No, my family grew up very low income, and I didn't want to be poor. Like that's what drove me initially. But then it was like, this is so empty, and that's where when I was 23, 24, I'm like, I'm chasing after money. I haven't spent time. My cousin kept trying to get a hold of me. And I'm like, I'm working, I'm busy. I'll see you later. I'm busy. I was heading to the Bahamas. I'm like, I love you. I'll call you when I get back. I'll see you at Dad's wedding. Like, and then
we have all the time in the world.
And then I never got to talk to him again.
Right. Yeah, because when you're that age, I think you think
you're invincible.
Well, you're invincible, but also you have more time. There's always tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then there isn't.
Exactly. And that's where my worlds collided, and I went, whoa. Like I've been working hard for later, doing this for later, and it's like, well, one, I'm not promised later, right? But then it became more about things shifted of living an intentional life. Like that's where anyone who knows me, I talk about all the time, intention, that like do things with intention. Like you get to build your life by design. You get to choose what you do. And there are things we cannot control, but we get to choose how we react to them and what we learn from it and how we carry the torch. For me, when my cousin was gone and then my sister was gone and people that were making a huge impact, and how I wanted to carry that torch and utilize the days that I still had here. Like, I just feel like there's so many people that are living, but they're dead inside and they're not living life. They don't enjoy their lives. They're miserable. They're just going through the motions. They're doing the checklist, and they're not really in a place of joy and bliss. I can look back and understand why so many people would be like, I'm just going to go and take off and, find myself and travel for a year, because you get in this, all these expectations from the outside world, whether that's family, that's school, that's society, or a combination of all the things. And we go and we make decisions based on what should be versus actually taking time to think about what is important to me. And 10 years from now, what would make me so happy to celebrate this past decade, and what I've done, who we've helped, where I am, how I've impacted, how I've, family, whatever's important to you. I'm not saying X, Y, and Z has to be important, but it's knowing what's important to you and being very clear on that and being able to reverse engineer that to then take actions towards that. And that was a big thing that happened at that point for me, was going, okay, let's stop, let's pause and think about if I'm blessed to be here in 10 years, like, what does that look like? Like, what excites me? If I'm watching my life in a movie and I'm like, oh, wow, look what we're doing now, and look what's happening, and look at how we're contributing, and whatever it is. And what is it that it actually excites me? And then going, all right, cool. What do we need to do now to make that a reality? And let me start making choices in my life that are aligned with that. And let me put boundaries in place that actually give me the time and space for the things that are important. Because Matt, another thing for me, like I had become a workaholic, and about a year and a half after this point, I had a real like coming to Jesus moment, and I was miserable. August of 2007, so I guess a year and a half later, where I was like, what is like we crushed it, we broke the records, we did the things for my cousin, that was awesome. But then now I was just like, what was the next thing professionally I was chasing? And I had to really reassess again and go, okay, this is not as important as, because I'd let my health go to crap and I'd let other things, go down the drain that were super important. And so that was a kind of like built off that, because it kind of started in '06 thinking about these things. But all I could think about was I need to hit $1 million for him. I need to hit $1 million. And we did that year.
It was probably a blessing, though. I mean, I feel like it's, it was probably something you needed to like keep you above water so that you
For
could
sure.
just exist. Sometimes, like, I hear so many stories of people that are just like, kind of floating through and you're doing what you know how to do, even though you were kicking butt and like doing the big things that a lot of people be like, dang, that's like impressive. You're probably just going through the motions that you were used to doing in a way. It's like, I'm not saying that you weren't doing amazing things, but it was probably like,
Yeah. But I was avoiding a lot of life, right?
but it probably helped you.
It definitely did, right? If not, I would have just been in a ball crying, probably.
What triggered you to change?
I took some time. I started doing some personal development. I went to Landmark that fall, and I was like, I need to figure out like where I want to go, what do I want to do. Like I just kind of was all over. I was talking to a great mentor of mine and two of my best friends. I remember we were in New Jersey going into that fall, and we were hanging out on the boardwalk. We were going for this walk, and my girlfriend started talking about something, and they mentioned Landmark. I'd never heard of it before, and they were like, oh my gosh, this, that. And they were using lingo that I guess they utilize there with training and different terminology that I just wasn't familiar with. And they said, oh, how about you, Kat? What are you with? I said, I have no clue what you guys are talking about right now. And they said, you've never heard of Landmark Education? And I was like, no, I haven't. And they were like, oh my gosh. They said, well, it's an incredible like personal development and really self-awareness type of, and it's been around for a long time. They still run seminars all the time. And it's really understanding. They're like, people go to just get to the next level, no matter where you're at. They're like, you're going to meet people that are multi-millionaires that pull up in Ferraris and they're just looking to get to the next level in their personal lives. You're going to meet people who are just getting started, I don't like, it's such a wide range, but no matter where you're at, it helps you unlock and get to that next level. And I'm like, well, what is it about it? Like, it's really understanding everything that's made you who you are today, like being really self-aware of why you are the way you are, the choices, the environment, everything that's shaped and molded you, and being able to take ownership of that to go, okay, wow, I didn't even realize that, because we start going, oh, this is the way I am. This is the way it is. And sometimes, as we don't take time to really look back and go, oh, wait a second. Like there were things that happened in our youth and we reacted certain ways. And these things help shape and mold who we are today. And I think that with that level of knowledge, there was a different level of empowerment of going, oh, I do have the ability to change my future or create what I want, and not just be an autopilot. Because I think at that point I'd also been like, oh my gosh, I'm becoming my mother. and there were different things that I wanted in life. And again, it came to the self-awareness and really understanding myself, getting clear on my personal like vision and who I wanted to be and where I wanted to go and what I wanted to be known for, regardless of the time I had on this earth. I was like, whatever time I have here, like I want to be able to feel good that I'm utilizing the days, to move my family forward, to move my community forward, my faith, in different aspects that were really important to me. That it just completely shifted how I did life. Before that, it was like chase, and then autopilot on the things I thought were important. And then that shifted to, okay, what's important to me? And then taking a healthy look every year after that. And when things transition and when things got lost and going, Ooh, okay.
Yeah, when you
What's
get
important
stuck in
now?
the cycle again, you just kind of you have to stop it. It's funny that you're saying this and your story is unfolding like this, because when we first started, I was like, how lucky are we when we're able to reflect? And you're like, I did this in my 20s, and I did this program which was all really about dissecting and reflecting on the things that made you, because you're going through regular school, like we all go through regular school. We're not taught to think about those things. We're just like
We're
taught
not
to be an
taught we're
accountant.
not taught many life skills.
Correct. Like how to balance a checkbook. It's so beautiful in a sad way that your life unfolded in that way of loss, and like it forced you to this beautiful opening of like how something so tragic can bring you to a place where now you have the tools to be able to design the life that you really want, not the life you thought you wanted, but the one that you really want, and create that, and probably create a better balance. I'm hoping would sounds like you were a workaholic. Did that go away when you
Yeah.
started to reflect?
Yeah, it still comes back in spurts, but I'm much better at my boundaries. No, I travel probably 6 to 8 months out of the year for about a decade and a half, which is nice. So we shifted a lot of things, and that came through the years. But I love my work. I love what I do. I love how we impact. But it's shifted from at that point, really figuring out, okay, what do I want this to look like? What's important to me? Starting to integrate some of those things, then seeing myself get lost in the shiny things and winning this and this award and this money and whatever. And then going, whoa, whoa, whoa. I'm still not integrating all that's important to me, and really sitting down a year later and going, all right, I need to really think through. And I was blessed to be introduced to Matthew Kelly at that time, and he wrote a book called The Dream Manager, and really that clicked and forever changed my world. Everything I've done in my business since then has been around this, and it gave a structure to what I was starting to do, but it was really more of the vision part. I think that being young, I always knew what I didn't want and what I was running away from. And when I was working hard, it was not to struggle like my family had, or not to, not be able to do this for my kids, or, money and time were very scarce growing up in a low income family. And so this was something where all of a sudden I was like, oh, wow, like, what do I want? Like, what do I really want? And like, what would feel really good? And so I think that in 2006, it was more of like, whoa, like, what's important? And I think that was more the question. And as I was still dealing with that a year later, then it was like, well, what do I want? Like, what excites me? Because I thought I wanted all these accolades and all these things, and I got them, and like, I'm not happy, and I miss
We all
my
find that out.
family, and I miss people that I love, and I've alienated people that were close to me. And so what do I want? And that is still today. I mean, that's the book I published 6 years ago. That's what I've taught for over 2 decades, but it's been really getting clear, because to me, anything you're doing, everything you're doing, I help people start and scale companies. It started probably 18 years ago starting businesses, and then about 12, 15 years ago helping a lot of businesses scale businesses. And then the past decade has really been focused on more helping owners be a real owner and not just a full-time operator, right? And that was a big shift for my life, of understanding, like, I can let go of the reins, I can have the proper infrastructure, I can have this, and I can have time for the things that matter. Because that was a commitment I made early on, and it was reinforced when my sister was taken from me in 2013. There was a car accident and she's gone. And that was a huge shocker. She was 28 years old, and it hit us all really hard. She was my roommate at the time. And, and it really hit again, of like, make sure that you're loving the life you're living as you build for the future.
That's hard. It's hard. I think especially with society, because we see, like you pointed out, these shiny things and we're like, look how happy they must be. When in reality, I'm sure a lot of them are quite miserable in some of the, in some situations. And to be able to figure out, like, no, when all is said and done, what do I really want? That's a big question. Are you able to answer that in a way to yourself? I mean, you don't have to tell me, but Are you able to answer that easily now that you've practiced it for so long?
For sure, for sure. It was harder at first, and then it became really simple because like for me, the things, the memories, when I think about my life being young, the things that are most important, like they centered around family and quality time and exploring new places. And that could be a place that's 10 minutes away from home we've never been to. It didn't mean going across the world, although now we get to, but it was like just really thinking about like for us, it's like it's exploration and curiosity and being able to foster that within our kids. It's being able to have connection with people that we love. And my husband and I are super intentional about like our date nights, and 1 week in a month is our time. Like, and I even mapping out this year, I'm like, hey, you better set aside third week of February, that weekend. Hey, set aside March. And he's like, what do you, and I said, we're both busy. And I'm just making sure we have our weekend each month that we're going away. And I'm like, we're going to New York here. We're going here, there. He's like, I said, we're having a staycation here. Sometimes it's just a staycation. We get a hotel tonight in the city and we just hang. But I'm like, I need that time. That's important to me, that if I'm gone tomorrow or something happens, like my husband had it, we didn't wait till we got to blank to have that quality time. Every month we have a weekend together, every month with no kids, and we connect and we go away, for a week, at least once a year, usually twice, just us, and then we go away with the kids, and do something with them. But that was part of the plan I wrote down in 2007. I was like, I want to have 3 kids, which I have now. I want to be in a healthy marriage. I want to have regular date nights. I want to go out, because I saw beautiful marriages and I saw really shitty ones. And I knew that the beautiful marriages made time for each other and they made sure they were intentional about connecting. And so it was like, all right, like I need to create that into my schedule because it matters to me. And I don't want to see cheating and divorce and all these things that I'd grown up with. I wanted a different life. And so if I want a different life, I also need to act differently, than people that I saw that didn't have that, and be like, oh, I don't want to hang out with my husband. Like, I'm going to go, well, how do you expect that relationship to last a long time and be happy? We all know whatever you feed, whatever you water, whatever you take care of, like that grows. And so again, back to intention, but just like what's important to you and
creating time for it.
And I think that's the harder thing for me now, Matt, is the time piece, which I'm the woman people go to, how to get more time in your day. But like, I just had a 3rd kid, I have a 6-month-old. And so that's been a little more challenging, where we're still fighting to have our time, but it's like, you take her or you take her, we're tired. We have and, she's not sleeping well. We're like, all right, we're getting a sleeping coach. We just talked about it the other day. I'm like, we got to get a sleep trainer.
I know someone.
Oh, awesome. I just was told someone else. I'll take all the recommendations and check them out. She was doing amazing and then had a regression, and we have not been able to get her back. So that has taken from our intimate time, in the evening, because one of us is with her or something. I'm like, all right, you sleep in, you wake up early, I'm going to sleep in, and we're like switching off. I can't wait to get past this season. And I think that's okay too. I think for anyone listening, like there are seasons where it could be a little bit harder to be in a perfect routine, especially if you have new little kids, or maybe you have a new job that has you travel a lot or different things, but you can still make that time. Even if we have a babysitter that's coming for 2 hours for him and I to go have dinner by ourselves.
It's what you said, it's intention. It's not, most people are not going to be perfect all the time. I'm not happy all the time, like I'm not sad all the time. Like you're all the things, like, and so there's going to be, I think, in my opinion, things that bounce up and down and around, and life just takes you for that ride. But if you're always kind of have your North Star or your intention to what's important to you, I think it's probably a lot easier to pull yourself back into the routine when it's tenable, like when you can.
For
right?
sure.
Because life happens, like you're not gonna be able to do everything all the time at the right time. You've experienced life happening, which knocked you off your rocker. But now if another life event happens, you have that North Star. I'm sure it's easier is not the right word to use there, but
I think prior to that too, I had I never knew there were mentors, in my life growing up, or best friend's dad, someone from our church, and they kind of always poured into me. But I think that during this time and this transition, this life shift, when I really was looking at what I want to do, where do I want to go, that also came up the power of mentors and coaches, and that was a huge thing for me as well. There was I think a little bit of letting go of pride of like, I can do this on my own. I got this.
you could. It might take longer.
Right. To going, you know what? They've crushed it. They've got a track record. They know what to do, and they're going to help shorten my learning curve, and they're going to help support me and where I want to go, and hiring my first coach that year going into 2008. I mean, we did the best year we'd done and broken the company record in 4 months the next year, which had never been done. Right. And so it was incredible making sure I was focused. And my coach would talk like, did you prep your food or did you order your food, right? Because health was really important, and I had the excuse if I didn't have time, and I had this and I could, and I was like, no, there are meal services, there are chefs that'll cook for you. You can meal prep once a week to get a good amount of the base things done. And they held me accountable on areas. I'm thinking back, there wasn't a lot of business talk from this coach. I was pretty dang good at running my business, but I wasn't happy. I wasn't doing all the things I wanted to do. And so they're like, did you go to your dance class? I started taking a dance class on Tuesday nights. I started doing things that helped me kind of come back to life, as I had been through that mourning phase and then transitioning. Like, that was really, really helpful.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's beautiful too, because I think a lot of people forget, or we put ourselves like on this back burner a little bit. Like we feel like we have to do all the things and then we can tend to ourselves. When I
Right.
think you should probably flip it, because you probably showed up better when you felt more full, when you felt more, not literally full, but like
Yeah.
more full of joy and like more yourself. You probably performed better in other roles, or am I making a weird assumption here?
Oh no, heck yeah. I showed up so differently. Like, your energy's different, you feel more vibrant. I mean, even just food has the ability to shift so much of like how you show up and the energy you have. And I kind of got obsessed with that for a while, like learning about, okay, what's this and what fuels me? And, even now, like, I love, and I have a buddy that I'm helping with this like biotech company, because I'm obsessed with longevity. And I'm like, I'm an old mom. I had kids. I started having kids in my 40s, but it's a lot. Right. And our energy is different in our 40s than it is in our 20s. Right. And I'm like, I've got three little humans under 5, and just, being able to look at those things and knowing like, wow, there are some little things that make a really big difference. And even for myself, like, I know when I just roll out of bed and start dealing with the kids and stuff, like, it's usually not the best energy that day, but when I can have even 10 minutes, like my husband did this morning, he's like, I'm taking the baby, you take time, and then I'm handing her off and it's my turn. And I just, I did a meditation. I did some prayer. He actually gave me like 20 minutes, did a little yoga flow. I was like, I'm not stopping until he comes back. And then he was like, kind of like, Tag, you're it, and then he goes, we have a sauna in our garage, and he went to the sauna and did his thing. Like, it was a totally different morning. It felt like a totally different day. And I know that, I'm aware of that. And sometimes I don't do a good, like, and he's my accountability of like, hey babe, I need 10 minutes minimum each morning. Would I love 2 hours? Oh yeah. Those days right now are on pause. But if I can have 10, 15 minutes to myself, and then I can schedule time later, it's easier for me to work out later and stuff, just because I've got 3 littles and the mornings are pretty busy. But just that time to center and to go about the day with intention, to just review my day and know what needs to happen, and not be like, what's that? But just know what's going on. It just feels different. And people feel a totally different energy than when I'm like, okay, so, and I'm like frazzled, reacting to the kids and businesses and whatever fires need to be put out. Like, that's not a fun way to live.
Well, I feel that energy through this. Like from you, I feel, I don't know, it's like this centered, like, I know who I am. I know what I can put into the world because I know what I'm putting into myself.
Thank you.
And like, you can feel it. Like there's this aura that you have because you do that. And I know it was probably a lot of work to become this version of you, right? Like there's a lot of practice that has to come along with that. You have to trust yourself that you're making the decisions that make sense. Because I think at first it's probably really weird, like to do some of these things, right? Like, was it when you were transitioning into this refocusing?
It was. And it was really hard because my friends and family thought I was a little bit kooky, like they're like,
Makes it harder.
just like go to church, you'll be good, right? Like I grew up in faith and I'm like, yes, and there's a lot more than that, right? Because there's spiritual energy for sure. And whether you get that from meditation, you get that from grounding in nature, you get that from prayer, personal Bible study, whatever it might be for you, there is spiritual energy. But there's also mental energy, and there's also emotional energy, and then there's physical, which a lot of people just think it's the physical aspect. And I did too in my early years. And we're like, a cell phone, and throughout the day battery goes down, we go to bed, it recharges, we go again. And I didn't realize that although that is the foundation of our energy and one of the most important aspects, our food, our sleep, our exercise, right, like the foundation, the physical energy, like there is a lot to be said about emotional energy and how happy you are, like the quality of your relationships, the quality of your life, and really thinking about what are the things that make you come alive. And I think that, losing my cousin and my, like that life shift, it wasn't just let's go on autopilot. It was what do I love? I love dancing. I started dance classes, like I love going out to eat, and I made contests for myself and set a budget to try a new restaurant, monthly, or at one point it was weekly. My accountant's like, you can't do this weekly. But that's something that like excited me, going on trips, seeing the world. I love travel. And that was something that really excited me. So I would create goals for myself and for my staff, on different quarters or years. And if they did this for the year, I would take them somewhere really cool. Like my operator that was with me for a decade, I took her to the Olympics in Rio. We had a big goal and we crushed it. And I was like, we're going, and it's fun, like bonding. And so I figured out, like for me, like finding like whatever it is, like I have friends who hate travel. And then I have
And you're like,
lots of friends
weird.
that love it. They're just like, I just rather be home. I don't like to deal with airports and packing. And, that's their thing. They're more homebodies. Like for me, I'm like, home is wherever I am with my family. And like the world is my home. Like I love traveling around. But it was coming back to what actually makes you come alive? Like what brings you joy? Like it could be a simple thing as like, I have a friend, she's like, I love working with kids with speech impediments. Like it brings her so much joy. And she has all these like things she comes up with and exercises. And obviously she became like a speech pathologist. But even when we were younger, she's like, I want to, like, she would volunteer at the church. She would volunteer to just like work with these younger kids. And it just filled her cup. And so these are all parts of emotional energy. Like, what things are we doing that make us happy? And are the people that we're around, bringing joy? There was a young woman that I worked with, and she was always in relationships, and when she was single she was really sad and her emotional energy was really low, and all of it was based around a person that she was dating. And I'm like, that doesn't need to be where your joy comes from. It can bring joy, it could also bring a lot of pain, but like what are other things that, and she's like, well, I love community, I love being around people, and through that she created a community of single people getting together, like they get together once a month now, and she has so much fun with that and leading this group. And it was like it was like, what is it about? It's companion. So it's not the guy. It's just, you love curating experiences. You love company. You love being able to do all these. So how could we create that without it being tied to a partner? And then if you have a partner, that's bonus that you enjoy doing those things with, but create your life where you love what you're doing, whether someone's there or not. And then looking at the different components, like the mental energy aspect for me came just really looking at whether I was interrupting myself too many times in the day, learning how to time block, learning how to prioritize, learning to focus on 3 main objectives for the day, and anything else was bonus, versus the anxiety of I got to get it all done. Business owners out there, come on, like when is it all done?
Everyone has their checklist,
That keeps going and going.
Yes, it never ends. No, I think, a couple things, and I know we're running short on time, but first, how lucky your kids are to learn from you and your husband in chasing life in the way that humans were designed to chase life, and not the way that you and I were growing up to learn how to do. We were taught to be successful, or you were chasing away from being in low income. You wanted to have more income and that kind of stuff. I think it's so beautiful that your kids are going to have you as this example you and your husband as this example of like how to have a healthy relationship, how to communicate. I'm sure things go poorly in your house every once in a while and you communicate about that. Like it seems very nice in there. So I just want to express how wonderful that will be for your children, I think, from my
Oh,
perspective.
thank you so much. Like that makes me actually teary-eyed because, ooh, man.
But imagine if we had that growing up. I'm not to say
Right.
that our parents weren't good or anything like that, but it was just how society was. We weren't really designing our lives in the way that we wanted to with what filled us up. It was like you could be an accountant, you could be a lawyer, you could be a business owner, and then we just chased it. So I just love that you're putting that example out there. One thing that I really is still stuck in my mind of something you said earlier, and I wonder if you use this with people you talk to or if people listening can kind of think about this, is when you said, if I was watching a movie about my life and I was getting jazzed about, look what she's doing now, or look who she's becoming, or all these, like, that is so profound. Is that something that you talk to more people about, or is that just something you randomly said?
No, that's something that when I sit down with coaching with, business owners or solopreneurs, that's kind of the first thing I like to do is really think about that because everything, how you structure your business. And I've been a business coach for a long time. So when it comes to business, I'm like, I do not dive into anything business related until I understand what excites them in terms of what they want their life to look like, because you're going to structure the business differently based on that. And I have two clients who do the exact same type of work, but how they do it is very different because one of them is a homebody and she wants to be in person with everyone and she has a studio locally and she has all these things. And my other friend who's in the same line of work is excited about teaching yoga in every country around the world and being somewhere different every month for the next 30 years. And that excites her. And so she has an online practice and how she set things up, right? Because that matches her vision for her life of just traveling the world, serving people, meeting all different cultures and communities, where the other one is like so stoked to be the pillar of her community and have a place where people gather. And is either one right or wrong? Absolutely not. They're both absolutely beautiful, but it's what makes you tick. So knowing like that 10-year vision and like, or five, you're just like, what is that? Your business in its adult stage is normally like your life 5-10 years from now. Like, I mean, we're there. We're where you want to be, whatever that end goal is. What does it look like? What is it? And knowing that, because then we can,
I want to watch the movie.
yeah, watching the movie and it's like you're watching a reel and you're like, whoa, like, what are you celebrating? Like, who are you with? What do you do? What does your day look like when you wake up? And then being able to reverse engineer to make sure that the decisions we're making as we create the infrastructure for their business are in alignment and are going to build towards that and creating the life of their dreams.
I mean, I love it. I think it's so powerful and it has me starting to think differently. So thank you for that. I like to ask my guests if they could, if knowing what the Cathy that exists right now in 2025, I'm sure you'll evolve from here as well. But if you could go back to the Cathy that was hung up on your cousin because you had to go do something and you weren't able to have that conversation, is there anything you would want to say to that version of Cathy? Because I think she might need something.
Slow down, like slow down. I think that we try to go through life too fast and we miss so many beautiful moments around us. And whether that's just a sunset, that can bring so much inspiration, or a cousin's birthday party, or, a night out with friends that really fill your cup, and maybe a Bible study, something like, just slow down. There are some big things out there and things that are so important. And you're moving so fast that you might be missing these beautiful things that could be so life-giving around you. And so that's something I wish I would have heard back then.
Yeah. And at the same time, you think of her and she's running from, she didn't want to grow up in the way that she grew up. Like she didn't want to be older and like have money problems. So you were still like trying to save yourself at the same time. It's really challenging. I think it's beautiful. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for what you do to the world, because if there are more Cathys out there because of you, all these kids that are now being affected by their parents being just more designing of their lives and filling their cup in appropriate ways, it's just like the ripple effect is probably immense. So I hope you recognize that. I hope you see that. And, it brings you joy in that way as well.
Yes, that's my highest hope, and I've had the opportunity to, my husband and I have worked with youth for many years as well. And we just love being able to impact the next generations and next generations of leaders and parents and that just do life a little bit different, because oh, it's just really sad to see like where our world, like there's so much good and so much crazy. And you go visit other countries and you see like the joys of like 4-hour dinners and people that love each other together. And like, that is life, and here's like, go, meeting, go here, go, go home, go to sleep, go wake up, do it again. And it's like, okay, cool. And also, how are we taking some time, to make sure that we're not missing all these moments, because people go, and then all of a sudden you're in your 50s or 60s going, what the heck? How did 20, 30, 40 years just go by, right? And to me, that's one of the saddest things, and I see that a lot. And my hope is that for anyone listening, wherever you're at, like no matter whether you're at 50, 60, 30, 20, 40, wherever you are, that you can start making everything count, from here on out. That hopefully necessarily you don't have to go through something super tragic that shifts, but that through listening to like Matt's podcast and hearing stories, you can go, you know what, like this is where I'm going to shift. Like I want to live a life that's full of more joy. I want to live my life by design. I want to stop being on autopilot on everyone else's expectations and really think about what lights me up and what makes me shine to my fullest and what helps me utilize my gifts, my talents, my potential to its fullest. And what would that look like? And how could I put that out into the world? And I promise when you do that, you are going to be experiencing so much more joy, and the light that you have and the energy that you have that you'll exude, people will feel it, and you'll attract more business, and you'll do all the, like everything just will flow. And it's really incredible to see that. So that's my highest hope for everybody.
I think there's something of every story that's going to like impact someone. And like in your example of like picking up that book at the right time because you were already on that journey, and then that book put things in a little bit different of perspective and got you on this road. It's like, you never know how someone's story is going to affect them. So I hope that's happening. If that is happening and they want to connect with you, find out more about what you do.
Yes, absolutely.
Tell you their story, whatever it is. What's the best way to get in your circle?
CathyChristen.com. My website's the best. It has links to all my social media. You can even book on my Calendly if you wanted to connect. I'm pretty accessible there. Well, when I'm available, but
when you're not making time for other things that bring you joy.
And then the link to my book is there as well. Life is a Masterpiece, and that's something that contact me if. I don't know. I know some people sometimes might be going through financial trouble. Like it's something that I'm more than willing to give. I know what's in there and how it's helped transform my life, and how it's helped so many people. And so I hope that there can be some great nuggets of inspiration, but it's also really designed as a blueprint to help you as you're designing your life. So
that's awesome.
CathyChristen.com.
Yeah. And we will include that link easily in the show notes so people can just like click it wherever they're listening and then visit it when they're not driving and they're at home and able to do it. Thank you for telling your story in this way, letting me ask the questions that I do and painting that picture of how we can kind of build our lives in the way that we want to. We don't need permission to do that. We can do it. And we should find the things that bring us joy. So thank you for being you. Thank you to the listeners for listening. If something that Cathy said today, you think someone in your circle needs to hear this story, please share this episode. We'd love that. And with that, I'm going to say goodbye to Cathy, and I'm going to say that I'll be back next week with a brand new episode. Thanks again, Cathy.
Thank you.
For more information, please visit www.thelifeshiftpodcast.com.